Wonderful.
All right, looks like we're good. Start that streaming.
Woot.
Clicking on through there. Hey everyone, it's the 365 Message Center with Daniel Glenn and Darrell Webster. We've got a few messages up for you.
Hello.
Let's get right into it. Oop, that's right. I'd still had something lined up there to automatically play after the intro. The SP Fest Chicago reel started to play. You know, you've
All
got that
right.
footage for me beforehand.
That's right.
I did see that quite cool video that yourself and Sarah Huzzy had put together too about adoption.
Mm-hmm. Did a recording there, and for our first, we did a first episode recording there, and actually did our second recording recently, and I'm producing or editing that now, and we'll have a second episode ready hopefully soon.
Cool, cool.
Yep.
Um, so we do have a lot to talk about because it has been 3 weeks since our last show, and look, I have to take responsibility for that. I took a 3 week holiday, but we're not going to try and cover everything. We've picked out a few of the recent bits and pieces, and some that have happened over the last couple of weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll get into it. And one of the other things that I'd like to try and add into this format too, just so that it adds a bit more value, is talking a little about the impacts on user adoption for each of the messages that we mention. Dan, you can still see my screen, can't you? View. So now our pattern of being able to try things out, as you've seen in
Mm-hmm.
Outlook, is that you can flick a switch and away you go. You get to see that preview, and it is a different look and feel. But I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to point out that the defaults that are when you turn that preview on aren't conducive to seeing your message
What we
center
do.
quickly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I had to add this card, this message center card, so that's definitely a thing that we can do over here. We can go in and it's a drag and drop experience.
Mm-hmm.
You probably won't see, yeah, you don't see cards that you've already got on the deck, so to speak, but you can drag that out. And the other thing that you might want to do is customize your navigation so that it
Mm-hmm.
has the health. We'll save that in there. And then that can be expanded there to see the message center. So we do continue to promote the message center. It's important for everyone who needs to know, admins and even that new role that you could assign people. That
Mm-hmm.
if they're a change manager or someone who needs to communicate with the organization, to make sure that they know how to make that up front and center. All good?
Yep.
All right. So into that message center, we're picking on a few bits and pieces as we go. Yeah, as you click in, you see that it does have that same look and feel as much earlier. We do
Mm-hmm.
have our major updates and announcements along the top, and everything still looks fine and dandy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there is quite a list there. Dan, look, I think one of the things that we'll pick on to begin with, and it's at the bottom of the OneNote,
Mm-hmm.
um, users not licensed for enterprise voice
Mm-hmm.
will no longer see that call button. So that's this one here in Teams, prevent or fix.
Right.
So
Yep.
just make a quick mention of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one of those where the service allowed you to see something that you really couldn't use, and so or shouldn't be seeing. And so I like when they make these changes to say we're going to remove this. So that's what's happening. They're removing that. So non-licensed users will be able to make VoIP calls, right, like you normally do, but not be able to make traditional calls, like over, as we would say, over the telephone system. But you can still make calls over the network, like you do, like you would, like we're doing right now, right?
Mm,
So,
mm. Yeah, it seemed to cause a bit of confusion because there was the dial pad there, and people were trying to dial real world numbers, PSTN numbers, and
mhm.
they were seeing the telemetry coming through, but of course, if you're not licensed calling in the cloud, then it's not going to work. So being able to remove that and then place it back in there for people who are licensed is going to help
Hmm.
that end user confusion. And we had that same experience with Skype for Business on prem as well. If you are set up for it, then you are going to see that dial pad. If you don't have that capability, it's not going to be there. So it's right in line
Right.
with our previous experience.
Right.
Now, I did see some chatter, and like I know I should have been on break, but I did see some chatter during my 3 weeks on Office Pro Plus is going to be installed by default as a 64-bit. I think that was
Yeah, and
this one.
I I had some questions about that, honestly, because the back in the day we had this issue, especially with, I guess, SharePoint 2010, and I asked on Twitter and didn't get a response from many, but we had an issue where if you installed the 64-bit version of Office, then certain functions in SharePoint wouldn't work. When you did the um, editing and data sheet, the opening, I think opening the SharePoint folder in Windows Explorer, it didn't work. So there's some things that didn't work with SharePoint, and that's why the basic thing ever since is don't install 64-bit Office unless you need to, right?
Mm.
And need to means using more memory that is available to 64-bit applications. Things
Right.
like if you're using Excel and you're opening up gigantic workbooks, or doing a lot of processing in workbooks, then that would be an example of, well, you may need 64-bit Excel.
Mm.
So I saw that and I said, wait a minute, I hope I hope the issues have been fixed. But then the I'm thinking about, clients who are still on 2010 who I can't, grab them and pull them away from it. They're still using 2010, or maybe you're on the latest version but you have a 2010 instance, right, that stood up and you did some heavy customization and you can't get rid of it yet. A fair point. Installing 64-bit may cause issues, so that was, I don't know. I didn't get an answer. Just wanted to
Mm.
kind of throw that out there, that we need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, the other reason that we used to recommend going back to 32-bit was the use of Office add-ins. Some of
Hmm.
those add-ins are quite crucial. They tail off to other systems that you might be using. I know some phone telemetry system, well, rather phone control systems that used to be integrated into Outlook back in the day. They needed to be 32-bit, and some of these add-ins are still quite crucial to the processes and workflows that
Mm.
some organizations use. So we were recommending always to make sure to go to 32-bit.
Hmm.
So the thing you'll have to be conscious of is that it's not necessarily the installations that you have control over, because as an admin you will put in the right code and command or argument at the end to say install the version that you want. But it's more about the people who are installing this for themselves and are being
Hmm.
instructed to go and grab this add-in, that they will be getting 64-bit to begin
Right.
with. So you'll have to go through, audit the different add-ins and services, and you'll know if you've got 2010 or not, and know that you'll have to make a plan around coming back down to 32-bit, and finally
Yeah.
getting around to, well, you probably have been doing this already, but thinking about how we're going to try and move ourselves up to a version that supports 64-bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and just remember, you mentioned about, manually going out there. I know a lot of organizations, that's their instructions,
mm,
that when you've got a machine, especially for small and medium sized businesses, but instruction is go to office.com, click and, grab the latest and let it do its thing. It's kind of the simplest method available to get it installed. You don't have to, worry about that all the delivering it through some enterprise system center or something like that. So just be aware. And if that's what you're doing, then your users are going to be grabbing the 64-bit if unless you provide instructions on how to get the 32-bit.
Yep, exactly. There was some good news for Mac users. Always good to see
Yeah.
some stuff in the message center for them, highlighting that OneDrive files on demand is being rolled out now to Mac. So there was some instructions there about if you wanted to go out and hurry this along for yourselves as admins, you could grab this package and deploy it. Otherwise, it is going to be, and it's currently rolling out now to Mac users. Can't say that I'm as familiar with that upgrade process when Office is upgraded on a
Mm-hmm.
Mac. We as Windows users will get the updates will just install in the background, and we'll get a little splash screen to say, "Hey, here's the new features." Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing I would recommend you do, I know that it's a good thing that's coming to Mac, but don't neglect your Mac users either for telling them what that experience is going to be like when they come.
Mm-hmm.
I took a look at a few screenshots because I don't have a Mac, but the highlighting what the context menu will now look like with the two options. There's the ability to have the files always on this device or free up space. Those two options there, and also where to find the files themselves within Finder, because it
Mm-hmm.
all integrates in with Finder, which is
Right.
the equivalent to that Windows Explorer experience.
Mm-hmm.
You had much experience on a Mac there, Daniel?
So I have had some in the past, but not through work, doing work, because I don't focus on that as much. And except for when clients say, "Oh, we have Mac users as well," I say, "Okay, here's the instructions," and you know, they. I think, man, I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think Mac users are used to having to do special things for Microsoft stuff, right? So when we say, with the Windows, it just works. With Mac, you have to do they're like, yeah, I'm used to it, right?
Mm.
That's the way I think about it, and my experience. So I say, oh, you have Mac users, okay, here's the instructions. We can try to figure stuff out with them, but normally they just run with it and it works. So
Yep, yep, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, apologise for it to everyone there. I think I've got some bandwidth issues, so if Dan's coming through a bit intermittently, it's probably because of my connection.
well,
Um,
congratulations, everybody. You don't have to hear every word I say.
Yeah, and I will translate. And getting back into the swing of things too. So some of the clicks that I'm making are not
Yeah.
quite up to speed. But the other one I wanted to cover off too here. Where are we? Making some changes to that. Da, 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 da. Oh yes, new icons coming to the Office 365 app launcher and app tiles. They came through with great fanfare, and I do see that even some of the product group have gone ahead and created stickers and even socks. It was the
Yeah.
latest one that I saw with the new icons already, giving them out to valuable influencers. Have you got stickers, Dan?
Honest, I didn't get them. And I talked about it and I'm like, hey, and then I realized at the end of the week, I was like, oh, rats, I didn't actually get them. Because Mark was there, Cashman, and he had some.
Uh,
But so I, I have an opportunity, as do you, in March to hopefully get some good stickers. So that's the plan.
Yep, definitely. And really, the stickers are just about creating awareness of what the new
Sure.
product icons look like. So, back to that announcement. This, of course, you might think it's, oh yeah, so what? They're just new icons. What do we need to tell our users? But whenever there are little changes like this, you are going to get calls to your service desk saying, "Hey, I can't find this," or "What is this?" Even though there are words underneath it, and whenever there's a change to the style of icons or the UI, and there's a change in color, those sorts of significant changes do impact the way people feel about the service. Some people are really, really hot on certain colors. I remember when Outlook changed from yellow to blue, and people are complaining there's too much blue and it's too soft. We want to go back to the orange outlook. You know. Anyway, keep an eye out for these app tiles. They will be
Yeah.
coming in the app launcher. So I don't know how many people really do spend time in the online version of Office 365 and do use the app launcher a lot, but I do, certainly do. I will expect to see those. Let's see if they will actually. Yep. So we expect those app tiles to change here, and of course on the landing page as well. So just let your people know about that. It's probably all we need to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
And well, this is another one that came through with a bit of fanfare. Teams shifts. Let's have a look at that one.
Yep.
Schedule. So at first glance, I read this and I read it as scheduled maintenance, not scheduled management. So do read it
Management.
closely. Notice that the Teams icon in scheduled management is actually talking about a feature, not about what they're going to do for the service to try and maintain it in Office 365.
Right. Right.
Scheduled management for first line workers coming to Teams through the Shifts app. I think that while this is going to be a useful feature for some organizations, it's not necessarily going to be something that you will have turned on for all organizations. We don't all need to use a Shifts capability to manage who's going to be at work and to cover things. And that's one of the first things I want to highlight is it's going to be almost like an open kind of calendaring system. If some of you have seen it, you might have even seen the blog post. You can organize the shift itself to say, this is what's going to be happening. These are the activities. You can group people, and they recommend that you set up your groups of people. And this is where it gets a little bit, groups within teams, and that you've got to have, people grouped before they can be part of a shift.
Right.
But do take a close read at that and understand what the implications are for setting up your groups, because when you add people to a group that then becomes a group that's part of a shift, and you want to shift someone between groups, shift between shifts, sorry about that, then it can get kind of confusing, and you have to recreate some of these things that you've set up for people. But on the whole, for first-line workers, it's a good first step of that first-line capability into Microsoft Teams. Have you heard any chatter around that, Dan?
Well, the chatter that I've heard and we've been discussing is for organizations that have something that does this already, it's going to be a slow move, I think, and others think it's just going to be a slow transition if they even transition. The other conversation, just because it's already there, and typically this is not a complicated thing, right? So it's one of those conversations of, okay, SharePoint, for instance, SharePoint can do it, yes, but there's these other applications that can do it as well and are specifically made for said thing, which is better. Well, for a while there, we were putting everything in SharePoint, for example. We had applications, we'd create time off calendars and workflow and all that in SharePoint. But then there's other ways to do that maybe even better. But, the rationale was we're already on SharePoint, so might as well put it there, right? Well, we're already in Teams, so we might as well put it in there. I don't know. So anyway, the existing ones, I don't know about the transition. As far as the calendaring and managing that, I mentioned SharePoint, but there's others. If you already have those tools, it then becomes why would I move? And why would I start using Teams to do this? Now, it's not a one for one. There's additional features you would get, right, if you moved into Teams for this functionality, but still, the effort to get that all transitioned, retrain people, et cetera, is it worth it? I'm not sure. I'm not saying it isn't. It's just, this is not going to be a quick thing, and I hope Microsoft doesn't think it's going to be a quick, part of the service, because I just don't think it will be. That just it could happen. I just don't think it'll be quick.
Look, the thing about new capabilities and features coming into any Microsoft 365 product, we've seen this pattern. It's been a pattern for a while. As it's a minimum viable product. It's preview. It's trying things out. Interesting thing here is it doesn't talk about it being in preview as far as I can see in the announcement. It is just that it's turned on, and it is turned on by default. You will find in the service area that if you go under services and applications and you go into Teams, you can turn it off for your whole organization if you don't need to use it.
Yeah.
But I like what you're saying, that there are fully fledged products out there that are well ingrained into the workflow that people are using, well, organizations are already using to manage these shifts. So helping people to shift to using shifts in Teams, it's not going to quite be enough necessarily to say it's an all integrated solution. If you don't have something in there that is going to fulfill the current need that you have in your existing product, then it's okay. Give some feedback. And look, I guess the adoption change management note here too is as an admin or as a person who's investigating the service, is try it out. That's really the pattern that Microsoft are trying to offer and allow organizations, is just to try something out, see what is missing, reevaluate whether the things that are missing in the product are they that important, and if they are, then just step back, give your feedback, and say you're great. We'd love to have everything together in a Teams experience with managing shifts, but we're missing this and this. So we'll stand back and give that some room and some time. But yeah, good to see that coming through.
And last thing I'll say about this. Last thing I'll say about this one though is don't get excited that you're going to be able to click the additional information link and get anything, anything appropriate. Just don't get excited.
Well,
you're going to have to go searching.
That was my first observation too. I clicked through and it looked like it was talking about something completely different. In fact, let's do that, because
it's not, but it's not like you would hope you would click on it and find out information about the Shifts app, right? Like directly linked to it. It's loading this apps and services landing page, and it's like, well, that's not what I asked for.
Yeah, that was my first impression too. But take a closer look. It seems to be because this is one of the first apps, you might say, that's been added into Teams. The pattern is, if you want to learn about apps or tabs or connectors, this is the Shifts app. So everything that you need to know about setting it up is sitting in here. So that's where I got that advice about filling out and managing your shifts, to organize people into groups, groups like front desk and valet and the like. You're not going to see a lot of the experience in there, but you will get to see how to set those shifts up. And take a second look. Don't take a glance.
Well,
and think,
it's not a, yes, it's there, but it's not this is, it's not the landing page you think it is. This is not the landing page you're looking for. It is definitely like, wait a minute, what is this? You got to look instead of we're I think conditioned for a blog post or a landing page for whatever it is that we're looking at. And we're landing on the apps landing page, which happens to have the links for Shifts.
Got it.
There. It's not, anyway. That was my thought. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I take that. But yeah, the blog posts we usually see, and maybe we've come to just expect that, and we're a bit spoilt now. The thing that the blog post does, or even a better designed landing page specifically for Shifts, is it explains the why. Why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this? Rather than, ta-da, here's how to set it up. And that may be if they made the starting point as get started in Shifts, then that explains a bit more about what is Shifts and why. So yeah, good feedback.
Thanks. I know what that means. Yeah.
No. In fact, like maybe let's just to refresh people's memory too. If you want to let people know back who are writing
Right
these
there.
messages that you can use the like and dislike, and you can say why. Like if I can put in, oh sorry guys, I'll put in dislike because maybe like just likes it. You can give a reason as to the feedback and what you think is missing. So maybe change the landing page for that link of additional information. Um, I'll skip that one there. What about we look at, just to finish off before we talk about some other observations, just a quick
Hmm.
one on the let's just close this one off here. Migration of Office 365 video content, something that
Yep.
people have been asking about for a while
Hmm.
now. Since we've had
Yes.
Stream for a while, it's out of preview, it's in production now. Um, how are we going to get our content across from video to stream? I know Lauren was hot on this too, saying, "Look, I've got content, or like I've got customers with content, and supposedly it was supposed to just happen on its own, but they have released a process at which you can drive yourself. So do
Hmm.
have a close look at that. It will let you know how to begin that migration. Then you can evaluate too what the differences are between the two services. You will lose a couple of things. I found that kind of interesting. Let's have a quick look at that.
Yep.
Um, Things like the, what was it? Scroll on down here. Spotlight videos. I know there's something that's similar, but not quite there. And you also won't be bringing across statistics that might have been there to say how many people have viewed the videos and the like. But the good
Right.
news is, as it comes across, your redirections will be taken care of. So your end user experience of I'm clicking on a video, it will still
Right.
play. The player will look a little different. No worries. If you've got something that's embedded into a SharePoint page, the video will still play. It's going to be redirected. The player will look a little different, but no worries.
Hmm.
It still all works. It's really
Yep.
just this process of bringing that content across. Get your content owners involved with checking that content out as it comes across. Did it come across right? Yes. Apparently, you've got 60 days to check it through, and if you find any issues, then you can log a support ticket, and they do have dedicated engineers for helping people resolve the issues around this migration for that period of time. So it's good that they're making that effort to help people finally come across to using Microsoft Stream.
Yep. And remember, once you go stream, you don't go back.
Well, you won't really, because it's tied into a number of services, isn't it? I mean, like Stream
No, I'm
for,
just so when you click to do the migration, there is no
yeah,
remigrating or any of that bit. So
yeah,
if you have issues and you're opening up the ticket, that's great. It's not for them to roll it all back. Let's go back. No, there isn't a go back. So just know that that's what's going on.
yep,
Because
good point.
everybody wants to know what's the plan. What if everything goes wrong? What's the plan? Can we restore the database? No, there isn't
Rollback
one.
plan, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, on that topic, just as a nice quick segue, we
Yep.
had the Microsoft Stream app arrive in
Hmm.
iOS. I know that it had been out for Android for some time. Philip Worrell was telling me about that. But there was some delays trying to get it into the Apple Store. I'm not sure what they were, but eventually it came through, and Stream is there and available. Been trying it out a bit. Unfortunately, I didn't have it quite set up in time. I was going to bring it up on the side and take a quick look. But there's going to be some, like you see with a number of the mobile apps, the integration when I go into maybe a SharePoint page and I click on the Stream embedded video, that I expect it now will open up in the Stream app and give you the full experience that
Hmm.
is in the app. Um, you observed something too, well, you had something to add too that was not in the message center, Daniel.
Yeah, the one thing that I was really looking forward to dropping, it was supposed to drop last week in targeted release, but was a new way to share in Power BI. It's called Secure Embed, and I'll post it in the recap notes. But previously, we've been able to share content really two ways. One is publicly, basically meaning you get a URL, and anyone with that URL gets to see your report. So this is something that has been a little bit of a security concern, of course, if
Mm.
you uh, making sure that only people use that for stuff you want to, for sharing internally, or just with specific users. And the second way was to embed it on a SharePoint Online page. Well, what if I have SharePoint on-prem or some other app on-prem that I want to securely share my report with in Power BI? So now there will be a new embed feature, and basically it'll function the same kind of way as the SharePoint embed, the SharePoint Online, except that you're doing it on something that isn't SharePoint Online. It has to the web part, I'll call it. It's not, but the part that you're embedding will have to authenticate to Power BI. So if you're not, then it'll have a button there for you to log in and authenticate with Power BI. But once you do, the user does, then they'll see the report and whatever you're sharing it with. So what I see this using this straight away will be SharePoint on-prem, getting those securely share internal network without having to create that security issue of sharing with the internet. So it was supposed to be released, like I said, last week. It was for some. It was delayed because of some issues with some tenants, but it's still rolling out. And so I was told in the next couple of days, be watching for that. So I'll put that in the notes. But it's good stuff.
Awesome. And it's good to be able to bring that experience across into the on-prem environment too, and have a bit more control over who sees and what. I saw a good comment there too. Phil was and Dean Gross in the chat were talking about the mega menu, and that it's on its way, but it has been delayed. But that's another thing that people are really looking forward
Yeah.
to seeing too. There is that capability to build out a bigger menu and direct your people to more content across your intranet with less clicks.
Yep.
But hey, that was us for the first episode of 2019, episode 77 all up.
Yes.
We've been at it. But
Having a good time.
thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for joining us in the live chat there too, and we'll catch you again next week. Bye for now.
Bye bye.